Hello and welcome everybody. In this video I will break down my favorite build to easily farm Lunacy 500 Rifts for legendary items. First I will show you and explain the setup of the build, including equipment, perks and so on. This includes one setup without legendary items and one final build that is using two of them. I will also break down some Rift footage for you with some tactical advice and showcase how the synergies work and come together. A quick word on the build here before we start. In Rifts I always try to maximize survivability and damage output. Due to the nature of Rifts, you cannot just build a super tanky ship. If your kill speed is too low, the Rift will be aborted. The Gunship already offers exceptional firepower and high survivability, which makes it easy to improve on those traits. I just farmed the Rifts for the legendaries. I'm too old and too slow to punish myself with Rifts beyond Lunacy 500. So this reliable and unfancy build is meant for the more casual playing folks like me, or those who take a more relaxed approach in general. I'm fully aware that you can build highly specialized builds which work just as well or even a lot better. Please share your setups and Rift experience in the comment section, and I have nothing but the highest respect for players overcoming the most difficult settings and succeeding in Lunacy 1000 Rifts. Number 1. Ship and equipment. Okay, I use the Gunship, which is essentially an armor tank with double the weapon hardpoints and thus double damage output at the cost of double the energy consumption. If you want to dive deeper into the class details, check out my dedicated Gunship video. The passives on my Gunship are Coil Gun Turret, the best turret variant in my opinion, great range and a good damage split between energy and kinetic. Turret also attack mines, not crucial in any way, but better than the reduced repair costs. In some Rift stages when you get the enemy drop mines on death modifier, even somewhat useful. 30% bonus damage against drones and 15% increased boost speed, which speak for themselves. Before you tackle Lunacy 500 Rifts, you should have at least a pair of really good weapons, the best possible armor plate, power core and decent expertise levels. For the non-legendary equipment variant, I go with a powerful star-forged penumbra flag. In this setup I tend to keep my distance a lot more, so the range of the flag is very useful, and in hectic situations the splash damage compensates for my bad aim. My main weapon is the powerful star-forged coil gun. Great range, damage and easy to use, unlike for example a Gauss cannon, where I don't like the general behavior of the gun despite the superior damage. The last slot takes a powerful autocannon that is my fallback option for close quarter combat, and I often use it in combination with my activated ultimate. I would also use a star-forged variant if I had one, or a star-forged powerful beam laser, which I also simply don't own. Some standard homing missiles for tougher enemies during the stages, and I prefer the unguided rockets to shred the final boss over other options. Apart from weapons, your armor plate is maybe most important. The Gunship is first and foremost an armor tank after all. An optimized star-forged nanoplating is your best option here. A star-forged tuned energy core with maximized weapon energy output is the other very important equipment here. Your guns will eat up energy like crazy, which we try to compensate a little with our perk setup, more on that later. The rest of your equipment should be of superior quality, but is not as important overall. Consumables are not super crucial. I prefer defensive options over energy injector or damage booster, so I go with large nanobots that will also restore armor, thanks to the companion perk from Delia, and the energy shield for real dire situations. In this non-legendary setup I have a really not optimal attribute spread with 0 expertise, which sits on both of the legendaries I usually use. The mainframe expansions I would mostly invest into firepower, utility and expertise. Be aware of the high diminishing returns that kick in after you spend 3 points in one attribute. more than 4 points per attribute are not worth the investment. Number 2. Perks and devices. Moving on to your personal perks. The level 5 is set to 25% reduced damage while boosting. Overall, I think the most useful in the Rift, although Close Call is also great if you mess up. Level 10 perk is of course Downtime Warrior in a gunship, 15% reduced weapon energy consumption for every device on cooldown. That is why I sometimes simply pop the EMP to gain the effect. More on devices in a second. Level 15 is set to Relentless. 3 installed support devices increase weapon energy capacity by 60%. That is a lot and helps the gunship to deal with its high weapon energy consumption. Ulterior Motive as level 20 perk works really well for an armor tank and helps to refresh our extremely strong ultimate faster. Retaliation is my advice for the level 25 perk. It helps to soften up targets in a rift, and it's always nice to have some passive damage output on top. Finally, I set the level 30 perk to Overkill. Ride the Lightning is great on a Sentinel for example, but Overkill takes the cake in this setup. After your ultimate expires, we will get additional weapon damage for 15 seconds. That helps a lot, refreshing your ultimate as soon as possible. Devices are EMP with hard reset. Using this while swarmed reduces the cooldown significantly. Teleporter with Scurry. You can easily trigger the Downtime Warrior perk with this one. And zapping in and out of battles with the rather clumsy gunship is a big win. The Nano Recompensator set to Resurgence is your get out of jail card. It usually restores 100% of your armor if you're not completely mess up the timing. And finally, the very important Missile Defense System set to Sustenance. With this non-legendary setup, I usually pick my fights more carefully, try to fight mainly around a 2 kilometer range with the flak and the coil gun, and often zap out of trouble with the teleporter device. Overall, a more methodical and careful approach, at least in theory. Often enough, when things get a little more hectic, I just stick to the offense is the best defense rule. A downed shield isn't the end of the world. Activate Nano Compensator in dire situations. If that is on cooldown, use your consumables. But mostly your kill speed should bring back your armor pretty quickly. Especially when your ultimate is active, you can dive into enemies and will be back at full armor in no time. Try to keep as many devices on cooldown as possible to make the most out of Downtime Warrior. The overall playstyle changes a bit once I use my 2 legendaries for this setup, which are Cassiel's Protection and Omni Manus. The first pops 2 very strong decoys that have unlimited health and stay until your shield is back up. These take a lot of heat from you and allow for a more aggressive playstyle, which goes hand in hand with the altered Missile Defense System from the legendary plating that also has the highest armor rating in the game. I jump more aggressively into groups and use the Missile Defense System during the turret downtime effectively as my secondary ultimate with shorter range, only 380 meters, so I need to hug enemies a lot more to use it effectively. The other difference here is that I swap the flak for another weapon, because in close quarter combat you can easily kill yourself with it. Trust me, been there, done that, cannot recommend it. The legendary setup is in summary more aggressive and up close, so you could change your weapon setup easily to something like blaster, beam laser and so on. You have more room for error, and this final setup makes it a lot easier to just rush through the Lunacy 500 Rifts if you want to do that. Both setups use the ultimate on cooldown, don't sit on that. Pop it as soon as it's back up. The coil gun turret really levels the battlefield very fast, and with this setup you can often use it twice per stage. The automated nature of the ultimate makes it one of the easiest to use in the game, while also being one of the strongest at the same time, especially in densely packed situations like rifts or high risk areas. Which brings me to the end of this little guide. If you have more questions about this build, feel free to ask in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you very much for watching. For now, this is all about Everspace 2. Take good care of yourself and fly safe.